In this episode, we will learn about a step by step solution to transform our minds and change our lives from the author of The Calm Code. She's a doctor who has spent a decade studying the science of the brain. Welcome to the show, Dr. Annie White. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode for a Soulful conversation. Even before pressing record, you shared an advice with me, and I'm like, yes. I mean, I even said it earlier that even if we do not record anything at all, what we've talked about before recording is enough for me, for myself, and I'm satisfied already with this conversation. But because of the passion that I have for soulful conversations and learning so much, and what you've done, the great gifts you've given to the world through your book, The Calm Code. I really want us to talk about anxiety, talk about stress, and how to manage all of that, and how your wonderful book, helps us to relieve all of those things. And it's not just the the normal way that we know, but very practical, very useful, and very detailed ways that we could use, or let go of our stress and anxiety, or and even just become happier people generally. But before we go into details and into your book, I'd love us to just learn from your own story, because I know your book too, you talked about your marriage, you talked about different things that happened to you personally. But before that, I'd just love us to know what inspired you to study the science of the brain, and then you went ahead to write the book, The Calm Code. What was the story behind that?
It's a good question. Well, I was seeing patients in my office, and I noticed that everything that came in was either rooted in stress, caused by stress, made worse by stress. And I knew that if we didn't figure out this stress piece and how to solve it, they would never truly be healthy or happy. So, my training, I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine, and it's a 6-year doctoral program. And we focus on the root cause of things. We want to get to the bottom and solve it, because when you do, that's when true healing happens.
Hmm.
So, it was my goal to get to the bottom of stress, right? And so, when I got to what causes stress, it's not the traffic jam. It's not the late bills. It's not somebody being on your last nerve, is it? It's the way that your brain is wired,
Hmm.
which brought me to neuroplasticity, which states that every thought, action, and emotion wires or strengthens the corresponding parts of your brain. And I'll give you an analogy in a minute so that you can understand this better. But I worked on these tools for over a decade, and I would just sort of hand them out to my patients willy nilly. It's like, oh, try this, do this.
Hmm.
This probably will work. And they all really liked them. But I didn't have the time at that point to really focus on, okay, let's develop this into a system. It was just something that I wanted to help my patients with.
Hmm.
And that was until the universe is funny, because I thought, well, I mean, this is for my patients. This could never be for me. I could never need it. And that wasn't true. I went through a really, really stressful time, and I lost my business. My father passed away, and I almost lost my marriage. And it took all of that for me to finally realize that I needed the tools that I had developed for my patients over all those years.
Hmm.
So I put them together into a process. And in the process, you start with 3 minutes twice a day, you work up to 8 minutes twice a day. Honestly, I probably did more than that when I started this, because I needed it so badly, and I knew that. But it helped me explain what was going on to my husband, because over about a year and a half period of time, I became someone who wasn't me anymore. I became someone who was irritable, someone very, very stressed and anxious, and probably one of the worst versions of myself that I ever was. And I
Hmm.
didn't want to stay that way.
Hmm.
And I knew that I would lose my marriage also if I did stay that way. So I instituted my tools, and at first couple few weeks, I didn't see much change. But then I did. Then it started to really change. And I noticed that my reactions were different. I noticed that my stress levels weren't as high. My anxiety was going down. And I was becoming a nicer person again, which was much more me.
Yeah.
And once I saw how well they worked, and this was probably after 6 or 8 weeks, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to get this into the hands of people who need it. It saved my marriage, possibly, you don't know, but could have even maybe saved my life because I had gotten to that low of a point at some
Mm,
of the times.
mm.
So that's what drove me to put it into book form because it could get into as many people's hands as possible.
Yes. Thank you so much for, taking that extra step to put into book form to help other people out there who are going through, stress, anxiety, and, you know, like you wrote in your book also, like sometimes the stress that we go through in our lives could totally destroy our lives, and you also experience that in your own way and form to relieve that stress. Before going to that, no, one main idea of your book was like talking about the brain, and you said that the brain can consistently be remolded through conscious intention and repetition, no matter how old we are. And I read that and I was like, okay, so I can always remold my brain and do some things in order to become who I want to become. But I need you, Dr. Annie White, to explain to me how I can go about this. What should I do to remold my brain, to rewire my brain to become much more happy, much more fulfilled, and yeah, much more relaxed?
I think that's a great question. And I did want to touch on my analogy to really hammer home how this works in your brain because your brain does remold with every thought, action, and strong emotion. It was thought a long time ago that once we hit 18, our brains were set. And thank
Mm.
goodness that's not true. But with this high tech imaging, they've seen that our brains, just like you said, remold all of the time. So are you ready for this analogy with me?
Yes, please.
Okay, Toby, you have just gotten a new job at an airline, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you are in charge of flight scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So your boss comes in and says, Toby, I have no idea what's going on, but everyone is going to a place called Calm Town. You're like, okay. So it's
Yeah.
your job to get the flight pass and their connections
Mm-hmm.
to go to Calm Town. And the more people, i.e., thoughts, right, that are going toward Calm Town, the more passing connections you need. And the
Mm.
same thing that happens in your brain. Your boss comes in 3 weeks later and says, Toby, everybody changed. They're all now going to Stressville. So what you would have to do is you would have to create paths and connections to get to Stressville.
Mhm.
And the more passengers or thoughts that are going to Stressville need more paths and connections. And what happens with those paths to Calm Town if they're not used? They in your brain shut down and start to disintegrate, just like the airline would make them inactive as well.
Mhm.
Does that
Oh,
make sense?
that makes sense. Yes, yes. What if my boss comes in and says, "Oh, people are going to Stressville," and I say, "No, I'm not making any pass to Stressville, but I'm just going to make everyone go to Calm Town." Does that work also for the brain? Does that kind of analogy work for the brain too?
That's a really good question. And that's why I created a step-by-step method, right?
Mm,
Because when you're stressed, you are building these pathways to Stressville. And it's not on purpose. None of us do this on purpose to think,
mm,
oh, well, I really want to create these pathways. It's unconscious. Most people don't even know that it's possible to actually build the opposite way to calm down. But what I found for myself, and I think it's true for other people, is in situations when you're stressed, just to tell yourself to be calm or just to tell yourself to think positively isn't easy
mm,
if you've been in a stress state and your brain is mostly stressed and
mm.
negative, and those go hand in hand, and I can talk about why in a minute. But it takes concerted effort to build those calm and happy pathways.
Oh, and how do we do that?
Well, that's what I take you through in the book. So the
Mm,
first, I can give you a couple tools. We don't have all time, here to give all of them, but
no.
the first tool in the book is called Happy Sparks. So what Happy Sparks does is you create an album of pictures that either makes you happy or calm or peaceful or whatever positive emotion. You can really easily do this on your phone or your computer, or you can take physical pictures that make you happy. You stack them together and you go through them twice a day, feeling those strong positive emotions for 3 minutes twice a
Mm,
day.
mm,
And that will start to build those calm, happy pathways in your mind.
mm.
So it's sort of like if you wanted to build your biceps muscle and
Yeah.
you were going to lift weights 3 minutes twice a day to
Mm.
build that. Same concept. Obviously, it's not muscle fibers, but it's the same concept that these exercises build those parts of your mind.
Yeah. And those pictures could be anything. They could be pictures of our dogs or our loved ones, anything at all that just makes us happy.
Yep, there is scientific study. So what I did in my book was I took all of the scientifically proven ways
Mm,
to wire your mind to be calm and happy, and I combined them into tools and into a method. And it's sort of like the guy who put the wheels on the suitcase. It's
mm.
like, oh, why didn't we think of that earlier? I didn't invent this stuff. It's all scientifically proven, but it's in a method that's very straightforward and the tools are really easy to use. So I took the concepts that have been proven and
Yeah.
I turned them into tools.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. That's a tool, the Happy Spark. Once you get the book, you'll be able to read about it. I think it's like in one of the early chapters. I don't know if chapter 3 or so, where you talk about the Happy Spark. But I would love us to talk a bit about the science, a bit about the science between, or on the science of the brain in relation to stress. Like, how can, and that's a chapter in your book also, how can um, stress break our brain? How can stress destroy our lives?
Good question. So if you think about it this way, every, and I know I've said this, but I'm going to put it in also a different way. Every thought, action, and emotion strengthens the corresponding parts of your mind.
Mm,
So if you go through a stressful time and you're thinking these thoughts that are stressed and negative, and I'll talk about negativity in a second, your mind is being built to be more and more and more stressed and negative. It's just like if you lift weights, right? Like
mm.
this for your biceps, even if that's not your intention, your muscles are going to build.
Yeah.
And the same sort of thing happens in your mind. Every single thought along those pathways strengthen those parts of your mind, even when you don't mean to. And, it was interesting with the pandemic, we really saw this in action because people were on high alert. People were constantly stressed. People were constantly fearful. And the studies that came out after the pandemic showed that it, the pandemic and all of these negative and fearful thoughts
Mm.
not only exacerbated stress and anxiety and depression, it caused it. So,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
this has all been scientifically proven.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so stress could even take us into worse states than we are actually. Yeah. And
It does. I mean, in my own life, I saw that because stress can affect your prefrontal cortex, which is like your executive function, your decision making,
mm,
it actually shuts that down a bit. And when I was losing my business, I was making just decisions that really didn't make a whole lot of sense.
mm,
It was like my executive function and my decision making shut down
mm,
a bit.
mm.
So that's one other mechanism that stress can really.
Of course. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. And now I'm super interested in knowing, like, if you could take us on that step-by-step solution on how we could, relieve our lives of stress or relieve ourselves of this anxiety that, happens in life, basically. That'd be so awesome. Like, can you tell us, like, the simple or the simplest thing to start with and how we could build on that towards becoming even much more relaxed?
Well, you have to do exercises that strengthen those parts of your mind every
Mm,
single day.
mm,
It's just like if you want to get into better physical condition, you have to do those exercises. These are exercises that build that happy part of your brain. So, what I would
mm,
tell people is start with those happy sparks twice a day. You're
mm,
going to notice a difference in a few weeks. You're going to love it. And then you're going to want to do more because
Oh,
you'll feel better.
yeah.
So when you have rebuilt, let's say rebuilt these relaxed and happy parts of your mind,
Mm,
then as we said before, the stressed and negative parts of your mind, they're not being used as much. So those ones start disintegrating. So you have a more balanced mind again.
mhm,
When something stressful comes up, you don't just go straight to stressful. You have a minute. You can be creative. You can be positive. You can come up with new solutions. It's
mm.
not this instant trip to Stressville that it was before.
Yeah, happy
And I
Sparta.
think, yeah. And I think the consciousness around this is the first piece and also the most important piece, because a lot of people, after they read the book, they said, oh my gosh, A, I didn't realize all of this. And B, once I did, then I shifted my thoughts more often
Mm.
to the more positive. And do you want me to talk for a minute why stress and negativity are like hand in hand?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Well, our stress response was made for us to survive.
Mm,
So that response in our mind triggers us to think about worst case scenarios so
mhm.
that we can survive things. I.e., if a bear is chasing us,
Yes.
we need to think about all of the worst case scenarios that could possibly come up so that we can survive that attack. You
Mm,
know, what if I slip on a rock? What if 10 other bears pop out of the woods? What if I climb up a tree and the branch breaks? You know, you're
mm.
going to go through all of these in your mind. And whether it's a life or death situation, it's a traffic jam, it's a late deadline or a late bill, your brain does the same thing. But worst case scenarios are always what? They're
Oh,
always
it was
negative.
negative. Yes.
Every time they're negative. And they sort of have to be because we have to plan.
Mm.
But when we're not in a survival situation, that doesn't serve us. Each negative thoughts then builds the negative parts of our mind. So now
Ah,
we're stressed and we're negative.
negative at the same time. Oh, is this what are we talking about? These neuronal pathways that we build up, or
Hmm.
oh, okay, yeah, because I hear that a lot about or building neuronal pathways, like by cultivating some habits, doing some things, to train your brain, rewire your brain in some ways.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what this is.
yeah.
Exactly what this is.
Yeah, and I think the second week, like according to your book, is talking about the appreciable tools. So I think that
Hmm.
that helps us to let go of the negativity that we could be experienced in our lives, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, gratitude has been proven to wire the mind to be happier. So, what I did was I incorporated gratitude in a bunch of tools. And a
Mm,
lot of people say, oh, well, I do gratitude lists and things like that. Sure, those can work. And if they work for you, great. They didn't work great for me. I needed different tools in order to be able to really tap into those grateful feelings because it's the gratitude thoughts, but it's also the feelings behind those thoughts
mhm.
that make the difference.
Yeah. So we should not just go through gratitude with the belief or the mindset that, oh, I just have to be grateful for something, but you should actually feel it, be in that moment itself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, for instance, and I'll sometimes use, I like a tool, a gratitude tool that I use when I'm worried about things sometimes.
Mm,
And it might not work all the time if I'm really worried about it. But let's say, Toby, I was very nervous about your podcast. You have a great podcast and a great audience, and I was super nervous about today. Okay.
yeah.
So what
Mhm,
I would do is I would sit down and say, thank you, thank you, thank you that I rocked this interview. Thank you, thank you, thank you that I rocked this interview. And I would change my energy from worry to feeling good about the interview. And you say thank you 3 times. It's the magic number, but it works.
mhm.
And I use that for a lot of different things that I'm worried about. And people can use that, if they're having a tough conversation with someone. Like if you and I got in a fight just before this podcast or something, which would never happen. But you know, thank you that Toby and I are closer than ever. Thank you that we mend this relationship. Thank you, and you go to the positive, and it can
Mm,
be a really powerful tool to use when you're worried about something. If you stay worried, like if I was worried about this and I did the thank you, and it didn't shift my energy and I it actually made me more worried, then I just drop it and think about something else.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, is actually very important. Like being able to be grateful for things and being or anticipating for the positive part of things basically helps us to let go of the negativity. Is that true? I don't know if I understood that right.
Definitely. But the reason that this tool is so effective, excuse me, is because it combines a bunch of different rewiring techniques. It combines best possible self,
Mm,
it combines gratitude, it
mm,
combines visualization, and positivity.
mm,
And it's sort of an affirmation too in its own way. So
mm.
affirmations also wire your mind. So all what I took was I took all of these different ways that we can rewire our mind and I put them into tools,
Yeah. Yes,
every day. So you can use them every single day. So I'm trying
exactly.
to give you some here that you can start with and start using to start wiring your mind to be more positive, more calm.
Mm, yeah, and your book, you broke them into like 6 weeks, basically, of things that we could do for 6 weeks, and I really find that very, very important. So anyone who is listening and is still, and is going through one stress or the other, or one thing or the other, and is looking for a way out, I believe the book is the best thing to read.
And Toby, you just made a really, really, really important statement
Mm.
in
What was
that
that?
this is a repetition deal.
Mm,
You can't do these things once and expect things to change.
mm,
This is a natural method, and natural methods take their time. And I always tell people it's sort of like you can't plant tomato seeds and eat those tomatoes that night for dinner.
mm.
Nature just doesn't work that way.
No.
But the fact that you said 6 weeks to see a difference is so true. You've got to give it time to work. You've got to give it time to build. It's just like if you started working out with a trainer and you wanted 6-pack abs, well, that's not going to happen in 3 weeks, is it?
No, it's not. No.
It just takes time. It's the
Yeah.
only downside of natural methods, but I just wanted to emphasize what you said because that was really important.
Yes, thanks so much for emphasizing on that because sometimes I also am guilty of this. Sometimes I start a process and I'm like, right now to see the results, right now to eat the fruits of the seed I planted right now.
We all are like that, Toby, because we're so used to instant gratification. I mean, we
Hmm.
get instant gratification everywhere, even in Western medicine. It's like you take a pain pill and 15 minutes later you feel better, right?
Yeah.
Or we want something on the online and and we get it.
Yes. Yes. As in, I want it delivered right now as I'm ordering it. Yeah.
I know. And I believe me, I would love to create a pill that could just do this automatically, but
Mhm.
we're still working on that.
Oh, okay. So when it comes out, I'm going to ask you about this. And yeah, but I mean, yeah, other tools that you've mentioned in the book. But one thing that I really want us to talk about are the peaceful habits that we could cultivate in our lives.
Mm.
Yeah, can we talk
So
on that? Can we talk about that?
let's talk on that for a minute because one of the things, I mean, yoga, you have meditation, you have walking in nature. There are so many peaceful habits. But my
Mm.
very favorite is guided meditation
Mm.
because all you have to do is listen and breathe. And studies have shown it's just as effective as different sorts of meditation. And there are so many of them. But I like to touch on guided meditation because there's nothing to teach. You
Mm.
can go on the YouTube, you can Google meditation for anxiety, you can Google meditation for stress. I have some guided meditations on my website for people. I mean, there are so many different ways to access guided meditation. And all you have to do is put it on, and your mind is going to wander because that's how your mind is trained. But don't worry about that. You just breathe deeply, listen, and the guided meditation brings you back. That's why it's good. If you sit and try to empty your mind, sometimes that'll just wire the wrong parts of your mind because you just sit there frustrated and anxious about ending that time, right? But
Yes.
what I found with my patients is guided meditation, even a 3-minute guided meditation, is a great way to start meditating
Mm.
and to
Okay.
start feeling peaceful every day
Mm.
without too much effort, really.
Oh, that's true. But sometimes, in guided meditation, I've tried it once or twice before, and sometimes they say, imagine you're in a place like this, and I'm trying to imagine it. I'm like, I'm not imagining it. I can't see it. What do I do at that in that kind of situation?
That's a really good question. So I would say that's not the one for you.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. Because there are so many different kinds, right? Some of them have you tense different parts of your body and then relax. So I think that would be a good one for you because
Mhm.
you're not a visualizer. You're more of like an in your body person, right?
Yeah.
And I think you could access, I don't know how how would I Google that? Body relaxation guided meditation. Try that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
So,
it might have you, okay, start with your feet, tense your feet up
mm,
and then relax. And then go to your calves and you work all the way up your body.
oh, okay.
And you
So,
might really like that.
yeah, I will try that out. So if visualization does not help, then it could be the body guided meditation that could help. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the guided meditations, there are so many different, I mean, some of them use light, some of them use visuals, some of them use it through your body. And
Mm,
you just have to try different things until you find one that really works for you, that really resonates with you.
yeah.
Because everybody's different.
That's true. Yeah, I think I've tried one out before because I've had conversation about meditation in the past, and I tried one out, and they were like, "Imagine a pink light," and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm seeing white light right now. I can't see any pink light. How do I turn this white light into pink? Oh my God."
That's funny. My visualizations use white light, but I actually like white light better. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and different things work for different people.
Mm, yeah. Oh, that's good. And I'm happy you talked about the happy sparks already, and now we have the guided meditation also. One thing
And the
I
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, and the thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, the appreciable tools that we need. One thing that, I've had conversation on about a lot is also the breathing technique, and you write about that in your book too.
I
So
do.
I would like to know the science behind those
You want me
breathing
to give
techniques.
away my whole book, Toby? Nobody's going to need to buy it.
Oh, that's true. We're talking about everything, but I mean, in your
You're
book.
like, give me all the tools on this podcast. And they just don't need to go buy the book. They just need to.
No, but in the book you go into, like, for all those who are listening, in the book you go into details. You talk about personal things. We didn't talk about your marriage. I mean, I read that part of it and I was like, wow, that must have
Yeah.
been a lot. But I don't want us to go into much detail about that because I want people to read the book and really see, really follow that flow and really understand the different backgrounds behind it. But if you could just really touch about breathing, and I'll be satisfied because I'm so curious to learn from you personally about breathing.
All right. All right. I'll just give it to you. So if somebody has listened this long, they deserve it anyway. All
Yeah.
right. So high five breathing.
Hmm.
Okay. There are
Yes.
5 steps. You get a high five when you remember to breathe this way when you're stressed. That's why it's called high five breathing. So,
Mm.
step 1, put your left hand on your chest. I want you to do this with me.
Yes.
As you breathe in and out, you say to yourself, I'm safe.
I'm
I'm
safe.
not in a life threatening situation right now.
I'm not in a life-threatening situation.
I'm safe.
I'm safe.
I'm not in a life threatening situation right now.
I'm not in a life-threatening situation right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to say that the whole time you're doing this technique because your
Mm.
brain can't fight against that. And if you are in a life threatening situation, I highly recommend not doing this. I highly recommend you running. Okay.
Yeah.
Step 2, put your right hand on your lower belly.
Mhm.
And as you breathe in, feel your lower belly extend out toward that opposite wall. If you're lying down, you want your belly to go toward the ceiling.
Mm.
When you breathe deeply in this way, you are really strongly telling your body you don't need to run or fight or survive anything right now. And the strongest way to talk to your body is through your body. Okay,
Mm.
so this alone will relax you if you can breathe all the way down deep, not just in and out of your chest, but in
Mm.
and out through your lower belly. Okay,
Yes.
now I want you to breathe in for 5 counts
Mhm.
and pause for 5 counts. That's step 3. Breathe in for 5 counts, pause for 5 counts. It can be as long or short as you want it to be. Do what feels good. The next 2 steps, breathe in for 5, pause for 5, breathe out for 5, pause for 5. As you're breathing down deep, And as you're saying, I'm safe, I'm not in a life-threatening situation right now.
I'm safe. I'm not in a life-threatening situation right now. Mm.
Or you could say life or death situation, whatever resonates with you, whatever works.
Yeah.
I'm not about to die. Okay.
I'm not about to die.
Now we're going to superpower it.
Mm.
I want you to move your right hand from your lower belly to the right side of your nose, and I want you to shut off your right nostril.
Mm. Yeah.
You're going to breathe in and out only through your left nostril. In for 5, pause for 5, out for 5, pause for 5. Studies have shown breathing in and out only through your left nostril activates your calm or parasympathetic nervous system, and it calms you down faster.
Mm.
Some people say, oh, Dr. Annie, I can't breathe as deeply just with the left.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then alternate just the left nostril and then both nostrils, and then just the left nostril and both nostrils.
Mm.
And that
Okay.
last step, another good way to remember it is pick your nose the right way for stress, because we're not actually picking our nose and it's the right side.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Because it looks like you're picking your nose a little bit, but you're not.
I'm gonna pick my nose, yeah.
And people are like, oh, I don't want to do this in traffic. I'm like, why? When have you ever seen anyone in traffic again? Like, who cares?
Who cares? Everyone is minding
Right?
his own business, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like you go to the grocery store later and you're like, oh, yeah, you were in that Honda. I saw you in traffic. No, that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. No.
So,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. I
It's your
feel,
new stress secret weapon, Toby.
yes, anytime I feel stressed, I'll just do this, some breathing technique. Wow. Wow. I've learned a lot from you already, Dr. Annie White. I really appreciate you going into details about your book. We've not even talked about
No, I didn't give out all the
everything.
tools. I was teasing you.
No, we
I
didn't.
was just teasing you.
Yeah, the book is filled with a lot of details, a lot of tools, a lot of things that everyone could use to, manage anxiety, manage stress, not just manage them, but, let go of them totally and transform their lives, their minds totally also. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. I'm sure that people out there will still have more questions to ask you. And we didn't cover everything. So that people that have more questions, or if you want to maybe connect with you personally to just work with you, or, maybe just follow up on some things. What's the best way to do all of this? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Okay. Well, my email is support at Dr. Annie, A-N-N-I-E White.com. My website's dranniewhite.com. And the book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Audible. And if your bookstore doesn't have it and you want them to get it for you, bug them to get it. So
Yes.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. I'm going to place a link to your website. You also have a website. I'll place a link in the show notes of this episode. There are other things on the website that maybe you want to talk about fertility and all of that. That's on that podcast episode entirely.
I'm big into fertility right now because I'm using not only this method, but all of these other methods that I've used for almost 2 decades with my fertility patients combined. So
Yeah.
I'm sort of into the fertility thing right now.
Yeah, so that's just a plug-in for anyone who is looking into fertility. Also, the person could just reach out to you personally, and also the link to the book and also to other information or relevant sources will be in the show notes of this episode. Thank you so much, Dr. White. I really appreciate you speaking about all of this, sharing all of this with me. Thank you. I appreciate this.
I thank you for your podcast. You're helping so many people every single podcast, and I know it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.